Hey guys, Jack on Wrist here, back with another video, and in today's video I want to play a fun little game where I pick one watch from each of the major brands and basically tell you what one watch from the current catalog I personally would pick. I think this is a really fun game to play because everyone's going to have their own answers to this type of a game. Everyone likes different watches from different brands, they have a different style of watch they go for, and so I'm very curious what you guys have to say. In the comment section down below, please leave me your answers to the brands I'm going to be picking from. What would you pick from each of these brands? And if you guys like this video, I'm gonna go ahead and make another video with other brands to cover as well, because there are plenty of brands I will not be covering in this video, and I think this is gonna be a fun exercise. So first and foremost, let's get it started with the first brand, which is Rolex. Now from Rolex, I would personally be picking the Rolex Explorer reference 124270. Again, keeping in mind this is current watches only in each of these brands' catalogs. So I would pick the current Explorer, even though I do like the older Explorer, which is this one, the 114270, maybe a little bit better. But this is such a classic watch. Really you can't go wrong with it. It's so, versatile. You could wear it pretty much everywhere. It dresses up, it dresses down. And this really alludes to my personal preference in watches. Overall, I really like watches that are very versatile, and I feel like there's nothing more versatile and dependable than the Rolex Explorer. This current iteration of the Explorer is a little different than the older 36mm, again the 114270. It has slightly thinner lugs, the bracelet tapers a little more, and it's actually a little bit smaller than a 36mm, even though it is said to be a 36mm. But overall, it's gonna be a very similar wearing experience, and it's a classic watch. And if you're a fan of the classic 36mm sizing, you're gonna love this watch, and really, like I said, you can't go wrong. The next brand we're gonna be talking about is Tudor, and my pick from Tudor would be the Black Bay Pro. This is a relatively new model that is very, very similar to the Rolex Explorer 2, the original sort of Rolex Explorer 2 design. Now, depending on sort of where you stand with Rolex and Tudor, you might think that Tudor is sort of ripping off Rolex, but again, they're sort of the same brand, so I'm not really sure how to classify that. But nonetheless, this is a very, very good looking watch, and I love the new bracelet from Tudor. That new clasp is just so reminiscent of Rolex, and much better in my opinion than the older models. The only real complaint I'd have to say is I don't like the faux rivets on the bracelet. This is something I really don't like from Tudor at all. I don't really know why they do that, but other than that, it's a beautiful watch. And if you're a fan of the sort of vintage styling and the original Rolex Explorer 2, you're gonna love this watch. It's definitely something I have on my hit list, something I definitely wanna get my hands on in the near future. After going through the Tudor catalog, this was definitely a really hard choice. It really made me reflect on how I've really enjoyed Tudor over the past year or so with some of their releases. Overall, you can't go wrong with the Black Bay 36, the 58. The new Ranger is beautiful. So overall, they really have a great catalog, and I really am excited for what they're gonna have to show here in 2023. Keeping in theme with the sort of vintage styling, the next watch brand up is Omega, and my pick would be the Omega Seamaster 300, specifically the vintage or sort of heritage model. And I'll put the reference number up there so you know which one I'm talking about. But this is a outstanding watch. I actually own the original version that came out, I think, starting in 2014 roughly. Had a ceramic bezel, some other slight differences. But this is a beautiful, beautiful diver, and probably my favorite diver of any watch brand out right now. It is stunning, and if you're a fan of the vintage styling, then you're really gonna like this watch. As you can sort of tell by my picks already, that's something I really enjoy. The smaller sizing and also sort of the faux patina and things like that, that's something I personally like, but I know it's a very controversial lane in the world of watches. Not everyone likes that, so it may not be for you. But when I was thinking about this, this was definitely my pick from Omega. I definitely like the Aquaterra and some other models, but this is my pick. The next brand up here is Seiko, and the pick from them would be the SPB 249. This is kind of an underrated model from Seiko in my opinion. You don't really see it talked about too often, and it's a really beautiful model that is kind of reminiscent of some other watches I've already talked about, like the Rolex Explorer, not necessarily in styling, but just that, dependability, definitely a rugged look with some nice elegance as well. It has a really nice dial, it has a fun colored second hand, I think it's sort of an orangish gold. Overall, it's a really cool watch. It has solid end links, milled clasp. I think at this price point, getting the Seiko name on the dial, this is a pretty cool watch, and I wanted to pick this one specifically because it's sort of a out there pick, not super popular. It definitely could go a lot of different directions with Seiko, but this is what I personally like, and another watch I really, really want to get my hands on for sure. One last thing to note with this model is there are a lot of different color choices. I'm a personal fan of the blue dial and that sort of deserty sort of colorway with that sort of off-white dial as well. Next up is Grand Seiko. This is a brand, if you are familiar with the channel, you know I'm a pretty big fan of. I've owned 3 different Grand Seiko models, all of them being 9F quartz models specifically. And so no surprise here, my pick would be a Grand Seiko 9F model, and specifically the 55th anniversary model. That reference is a SBGP 017. It has a beautiful blue dial, even darker blue secondhand. And if you just look at this thing, you know it's absolutely stunning. It has a almost snowflake-esque dial, of course, in that blue color, as I mentioned. You have that sort of gold star at the 6 o'clock, which I believe is referring to the fact that this is an anniversary model. And if you look at the case back, you'll see that it is a display case back, and you can see the 9F quartz movement. And I think the fact that they have a display case back on a quartz model and you're not really questioning it, and you can just see how beautiful it is. I think, you know, it's so cool that they've sort of transcended the worlds of automatic and, you know, quartz. You just don't even care what's behind there. You just know it's beautiful. And to me, I think that's so cool. I know some people are sort of anti 9F quartz just because they don't really like quartz. But this is such a cool movement. It's really cool to look at it, and you know, they finish it so beautifully. So you know, this is a great watch. Again, great bracelet. Everything that you love with Grand Seiko, you're going to get in this particular model. Maybe it's sort of cheating because it's on their current catalog, but it's an anniversary edition. But that's my pick. The last brand up here is going to be Cartier, and we're going to be taking a look at the Tank Must Solar Beat. This is a quartz model, of course, of the Tank variety from Cartier, that I think is just a beautiful example of this particular watch and particular model. I watched a review of this by the YouTuber You're Terrific, a YouTuber I'm sure many of you are familiar with. He makes great content. And he just presented this watch in a beautiful way, and I just really liked it. I don't know why. I know it's a quartz model, a solar model from Cartier, which is definitely sort of an odder pick, and it doesn't even really make a ton of sense for a more dressy watch, in my opinion. I think a manual wind does make a little more sense, but for some reason I just really like this watch. I love the slim profile of it. I know that's going to be a lot of the Tank models, but for whatever reason I just really like this model, and I wanted to spotlight it here and give it my personal pick from Cartier. So that's pretty much this video. Those are my picks from the current catalogs of the brands Rolex, Tudor, Omega, Seiko, Grand Seiko, and Cartier. If you want to see me make other picks for what watches I like from other brands, let me know. I'm interested in making a follow-up video to this. We have a lot of other brands to cover. But more importantly, let me know what you guys like. What watches would you pick from these brands? I think it's really interesting to see what everyone likes from these different brands. You know, they offer so much variety, and everyone has their own personal style. So please leave that in the comment section down below, and what do you think about my personal picks? If you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I love making these videos, and I'm excited to be pumping out way more watch content for you. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.